Hi, I'm Marcus, 28, from East London. Professional disappointment. Part-time overthinker. My dad once looked me in the eye and said, "I wish you were never born." So I did the obvious thing, bought him a one-bedroom penthouse, and ruined his life from the inside out. Right, so let's get this out the way. Some babies are born into love. Some are born into chaos. I, however, was born into what I can only describe as a tax write-off with a pulse. According to my dad, my arrival into this world was less of a miracle and more of a clerical error. Like someone at the universe's HR department went, "Oh bugger, we forgot to cancel that pregnancy." Now I know some dads hand out hugs and awkward pats on the back. Mine. He handed out disappointment like it was on buy one, get one free down at Lidl every time I achieved something remotely decent. School award, part-time job, not setting the kitchen on fire. He'd stare at me like I'd just announced I wanted to become a mime. No reaction. Just that same look of existential boredom usually reserved for waiting at the GP.
And failure?
Oh, failure was his jam. His jam, his bread, his entire sodding breakfast spread. If I so much as stumbled, he'd act like I'd personally set the NHS on fire and then danced on its ashes. I once got a C in maths, and he spent the next 3 weeks referring to me as the Great Disappointment, like some cursed wizard in a tragic children's book. It's funny, really. Some kids grow up with dreams. I grew up with a man who sighed when I entered the room. Not even dramatically, mind you. Just that soul-sucking, tired of your existence kind of sigh that middle-aged men reserve for potholes and fancy menu items that cost more than $8.99. You know how some dads frame your baby photos and hang them in the living room? Mine deleted every picture of me before I turned 5 and claimed they were corrupted files. Right, corrupted files. Meanwhile, his limited edition vinyl collection from the 80s was guarded like the crown jewels. And it wasn't just emotional absence, oh no, that would have been too merciful. He had this special talent for weaponized indifference. He wouldn't just forget my birthday. He'd remember it halfway through the day and still not say anything. Just casually bring it up at dinner like, "Oh, it's your birthday today, innit? Thought you looked a bit older." Pass the peas. I wasn't raised. I was endured. And look, I know every dysfunctional family has its quirks, but this man treated fatherhood like a prison sentence. Except instead of parole, he got me. Some kids are their dad's pride and joy. I was his why the hell did we run out of condoms. Honestly, I half suspect I was conceived during a very bored bank holiday weekend. You know the type, nothing on telly. Can't be arsed to mow the lawn, might as well procreate. But here's the kicker. The real cherry on this emotionally repressed Victoria sponge. I still tried to win his approval. Like some tragic Labrador constantly fetching a stick he never threw. Because deep down in that pit of childhood trauma and unresolved daddy issues, I believed if I just did enough, he might look at me the way normal dads look at their kids. You know, with mild affection. Or at the very least, not like I'm a tax problem. Spoiler alert, he didn't, but don't worry. The story gets so much worse. You know those kids who grow up in loving homes and develop a healthy sense of self-worth? Yeah, I missed that memo. Instead, I grew up thinking love was like nectar points, something you had to earn by spending your entire bloody life on the wrong things, and God help you if you tried to cash them in. Somewhere around year 8, probably just after he forgot to pick me up from parents' evening and told my teacher I was not his responsibility after 5 p.m., I decided that if I just did enough, Dad might finally look at me like I was more than the result of a broken condom and a mild hangover. So I went full overachiever. You know the type. The kid who joins every club, volunteers for everything. Always says thanks to the bus driver even when he's sobbing on the inside. I was chasing his approval like it was the last sausage roll at Greg's. And trust me, I ran. Worked weekends. Studied like my life depended on it. Which, emotionally speaking, it did. Grafted harder than a Love Island contestant pretending to care. I ate beans and rice for months. Like some tragic post-uni flatmate who's just discovered the oven doesn't work and Deliveroo's blocked them for excessive neediness. Meanwhile, Dad, completely unfazed. I could have cured bloody cancer, and he'd still ask if I'd remembered to put the bins out. I once told him I got into uni on a scholarship. Proper proud of myself, and he just said, "Well, try not to get any ideas about being clever." Cheers, Steve, truly inspirational parenting. But the real kicker? The startup. Now, most people build a business for freedom. Financial security, the thrill of the grind. Me? I built mine like I was trying to audition for my dad's affection. I thought, right, if emotional intimacy's off the table, maybe a limited company and a six-figure valuation will do the trick. Because nothing says, please love me, like bleeding out over spreadsheets and living off instant noodles to afford office space in Croydon. I scrimped, I saved. I skipped nights out and actual meals. My idea of a treat was 2 tea bags in the same mug. And somehow, through sheer grit, zero social life, and blind desperation, I made it. Startup took off. Investors liked me. Money came in. I finally had enough in the bank to do something big, something meaningful. And what was the first thought that popped into my fragile little brain? Let me fix the unfixable. Let that sink in. I could have bought myself peace, security, a holiday that didn't involve moldy Airbnbs and regret. But no, I looked at my emotionally constipated father and thought, I can still win him over. Because clearly I wasn't just traumatized. I was ambitious about it. What do you even call that? Hope? Madness? The long-term effects of growing up with a man who thought feelings were a sign of weakness and preferred watching Question Time to interacting with his own son. It's wild, really. You spend your whole life trying to earn something from someone who hasn't even acknowledged the debt. And when you finally make it, when you've clawed your way to success, dragging a suitcase full of unresolved daddy issues behind you, your first instinct is to hand it all over like a prize you stole, because deep down you still believe that maybe, just maybe, he'll look at you and see a son. Spoiler alert, he didn't. But oh, don't worry. I made sure he noticed what I gave him. Unfortunately, he noticed it in the same way you notice dog muck on your shoe, with contempt, regret, and a bit of a dramatic limp. We'll get to that part, trust me. It's a proper car crash. So the penthouse, a sleek, high-rise monstrosity with floor-to-ceiling windows and enough marble to make a Roman emperor blush. The kind of place where every surface screams, I cost more than your student loan. And even the toilet roll has a concierge. It had views, darling. Panoramic ones. The Shard on one side, the Thames on the other, and a skyline. So smug it practically offered you a glass of Prosecco and an unsolicited opinion about NFTs. And I, idiot that I am, bought it. For my dad. Yes, the man who once said, why would I waste money on a birthday present when you've already been born? That man, that walking emotional void with a beer gut and zero discernible hobbies beyond, judging others and sighing at the 6 o'clock news. Why? Because somewhere in the tangled back alleys of my trauma-riddled brain, I still thought, this'll do it. This is the grand gesture that'll finally break through the concrete slab he calls a heart. Spoiler, it wasn't. Anyway, I handed him the keys. Literally, like a golden retriever who's just retrieved the world's most expensive stick, all eager eyes and desperate hope. And what does he say? Is that it? Is that it? I could have died on the spot, and not a dramatic death. I mean one of those pathetic, quiet deaths people only notice when the kettle's gone cold, and no one's topped up the milk. Like, mate, I bought you a 1 million flat, a penthouse, with an actual balcony and more storage than emotional capacity, and you're standing there like, I've just handed you a bloody Tesco meal deal, not even a good one. Like the prawn mayo sandwich and the lukewarm Ribena. He walked in, took one look at the place and said, bit cold, innit? Yes, Jeffrey. It's a modern, climate-controlled architectural masterpiece. Sorry it doesn't come with a fireplace, made of daddy issues and the faint smell of disappointment. To be fair, he did a full tour in absolute silence, like he was inspecting a murder scene. Then he sat down on the custom leather sofa, the one I picked because I thought, Dad's a leather sofa, man, and actually winced. Like the leather personally offended him. He asked where the telly was. I said it was built into the wall. He muttered something about bloody posh nonsense. This from a man who once tried to fix the Sky remote with a spoon and a rubber band. I asked him if he liked it, voice cracking like a year, I'm clarinet recital, and then he goes, I suppose it's all right. Bit much for someone like me, though, innit? Right, someone like you. You mean someone who once asked if Wi-Fi came through the radiators and thinks, Deliveroo is a foreign spy network? I should have known better. I really should have. But no, somewhere in my catastrophically miswired psyche, I thought handing over the deeds to a high-spec luxury flat would magically rewrite 27 years of neglect. That he'd suddenly turn to me and go, you know what, son? I'm proud of you. Instead I got, is that it? and a review of the cutlery drawer like he was judging MasterChef. And here's the worst bit. The bit that still keeps me up at night, muttering into a cup of peppermint tea like a Victorian widow. I smiled. I actually stood there and smiled. Said, "Well, it's yours now, Dad. Hope you like it." Like it? Like it? Mate, I put myself in actual debt for this. I signed papers with numbers so big they made me dizzy. Took out a loan that'll haunt me longer than my GCSE French. Teacher's disappointed face. I haven't eaten a decent meal in weeks unless you count the pity pastries. I steal from investor meetings. And what did I get? A grunt, a shrug, and a man who looked like he'd rather be down, the pub with his mates, complaining about cyclists. Honestly, it felt less like giving someone a gift and more like enrolling in a very expensive, self-loathing course I never signed up for. But sure, bit cold, innit? Yeah, well, Dad, so are you. So about a week after the great penthouse fiasco, my phone rings. Now naive little me, still, clinging to the last crumb of delusion like it's the last chip at a Weatherspoon's table, actually answers. Thinking maybe he's had a change of heart. Maybe he's calling to say thanks. Maybe he's realized I'm not the physical embodiment of regret after all. Hilarious, honestly. Send that optimism straight to the Natural History Museum. It's extinct everywhere else. Anyway, I answer. He doesn't say hello. Doesn't ask how I am. No polite British, "You all right?" Which, let's be honest, we only say so we don't have to talk about our real feelings. No, he opens with, "You're a curse." A curse, lads. Like I'm some sort of demonic fog that rolled in during his midlife crisis and ruined his chances of being a legend at the working men's club. I said, "Right, morning to you too. Because that's what you do, isn't it? British politeness, even when someone's actively stabbing your soul with a butter knife." Then he goes, full chest, no irony. "You've bankrupted us." Bankrupted. As if I haven't been living on budget oats and broken dreams since I signed those mortgage papers. As if he didn't just walk into a £1,000,000 flat with all the grace of a man. Judging a travelodge. Apparently, after moving in, he and my mother, who's mostly silent unless there's a bake, off rerun or a legal complaint to file, decided the place was too big, too posh, too me. Which, fair. I do own cutlery that matches and I've got a plant I haven't killed in 6 months. Very suspicious behavior. Turns out maintaining a luxury penthouse isn't exactly cheap. Who knew? The service charge alone could fund a small country or, at the very least, a solid Friday night at the pub. And instead of just, I don't know, telling me they wanted something smaller or renting it out, or literally anything involving adult communication, they panicked. Sold their own house. Put the money into helping with the flat. Took out a loan, because clearly financial ruin is our family's favorite bonding activity, and now he's decided it's my fault. Let me get this straight. I gift this man an actual high-rise fantasy, the kind of place you'd expect a disgraced Tory MP to hide from scandal, and he responds by declaring me a curse, like I'm the human version of a cracked mirror or an unseasoned shepherd's pie. Then for the cherry on this emotionally withered Sunday, he says, "I wish you'd never been born." Oh, brilliant. There it is. The full Shakespearean rejection. Delivered with all the dramatic flair of someone who once told me real men don't cry, but now apparently thinks he's in EastEnders. I just stood there, phone in one hand, frozen fish fingers in the other, because yes, I still eat like a depressed 14-year-old, and let it wash over me. I wish you'd never been born. I mean, cheers, mate. Good to know. Really brightened my day. Always nice when your father casually drops a postnatal regret bomb like it's a passive-aggressive WhatsApp from the family group chat. And the worst part, I didn't even scream. Didn't yell. Didn't launch into some grand monologue about sacrifice and hurt and how I gave up years of my life trying to win the approval of a man who couldn't even give me a pat on the back without sighing first. I just listened, quietly like a twit, because deep down, and this is the embarrassing bit, some tragic, moth-eaten part of me still cared. Still hoped he'd call back 5 minutes later and say, "I didn't mean it." Of course he didn't. What he did do? Tried to list the flat, behind my back, without telling me, because apparently betrayal's more efficient when you cut out the admin, but we'll get to that. For now, I just stood in my kitchen, numb, broke, emotionally wrecked, listening to the man I built my life around call me a mistake. And I thought, right. That's it. Something in me snapped. Not loudly. Not with drama, just a quiet click. Like the sound of a light going off in a room you're never going back into. Because this time, I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't even going to argue. I was going to open my laptop and rewrite the whole bloody story. So after Dad's little Shakespearean rejection speech, the whole "you're a curse, I wish you'd never been born" greatest hits compilation, I didn't do what I usually do. I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't dramatically smash my phone like I was auditioning for Love Island Therapy Week. No throwing cutlery, no punching pillows, not even an angry walk through the local park pretending I'm in a BBC drama. I just sat in the kitchen at 3:17 p.m. on a Wednesday like a ghost with a direct debit. And then I opened my laptop. Not for emails. Not for revenge porn, though tempting. No, just opened it, like some tech-based seance, staring into the void of the login screen like it might cough up a reason I exist. And mate, let me tell you, that silence, deafening, not peaceful, not meditative. Just quiet, like the air before a really polite explosion. The kind where someone hands you a cup of tea, then drops a truth bomb about how your entire personality is emotionally inherited trauma. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I wasn't doing this anymore. Not the people-pleasing. Not the financial self-immolation. Not the emotional acrobatics I've been doing since I was 7 and thought, maybe if I tidy the living room, Dad'll love me. Yeah, that ship's not just sailed. It's on fire, sinking, and full of rats. So I did what any unhinged but technically high-functioning millennial would do. I opened a blank Google Doc, sat back, cracked my knuckles like I was about to draft the Magna Card of emotional comebacks, and then I typed, "Contingency plan. Operation Emotionally Dead Phoenix." Catchy, innit? What followed was, maybe not a full breakdown, but definitely a spreadsheet-flavored existential crisis. Budget forecasts, property laws, the mental arithmetic of how do I take everything back without ending up on the news. Real high-level stuff. I even had snacks. Mood snacks. A bag of mini cheddars I didn't even like. Didn't matter. The taste of mild cheese soothed the vengeful maths. And the thing is, in that exact moment, I realized I'd crossed some sort of threshold. The line between please love me and actually go shag a cactus. This wasn't about him anymore. Not really. It was about me. The me who'd spent his entire adult life mistaking martyrdom for maturity. The me who thought success meant giving everything away and asking for nothing, like some twisted reverse Santa with deep-rooted abandonment issues. No more. No more overpriced gifts to earn crumbs of affection. No more begging for love with direct debits and high-rise views. I was done playing financial Jesus. This was resurrection season, and no one was getting free miracles anymore. So yeah, I didn't break down. I broke open, like a sad piñata full of receipts, bitterness, and overdue boundaries. And it felt weirdly good, quietly powerful, like I'd finally stopped bleeding out emotionally for someone who wouldn't even offer me a plaster, or worse, would call me dramatic for asking. That night I didn't cry. I slept 8 full hours. No nightmares. No waking up in a cold sweat wondering if I was still the family disappointment. Just blissful, mildly dehydrated slumber, because something had shifted. I wasn't anyone's emotional bin anymore. Not their golden goose. Not their scapegoat. Not their fixer-upper disappointment son. I was something much, much more dangerous. A man with a plan, and Wi-Fi, and a working knowledge of property law. So there I was, a fully grown adult with mild abandonment issues, a dangerously stable Wi-Fi connection, and absolutely nothing left to lose except my dignity, which, let's be honest, had already left the building sometime around age 14 when Dad told me crying was for mugs and women. It was time to reclaim my spine. And the penthouse, mostly the penthouse. First order of business, ownership reversal. Now, I'm not saying I'd premeditated the entire thing, but let's just say the paperwork for temporary transfer had a very generous clause in it. And shockingly, Dad never read the fine print. Which tracks? Really, he once signed a gym contract thinking it was a pizza loyalty scheme. Anyway, one log into the solicitor portal later and boom. Keys, deeds, and the soul of the flat were back under my name. I felt like some sort of petty housing god. Then I canceled the utilities. Electricity, off. Water, by. Wi-Fi, gone. Let him suffer like the rest of us when Virgin Media has an outage. For added flair, I booked a luxury estate agent, the kind who wears loafers without socks and says things like statement space without gagging. Told him, sell it. Don't care who to. As long as they aren't my father, we're golden. And just like that, the 7-figure shrine to my own emotional self-harm was back on the market. With a scented candle, 'cause I'm not a monster. Now the fun bit, Dad, bless him, was still sending texts like you owe me. I raised you. Yes, mate, you did keep me alive. Emotionally, jury's still out. So I did what any emotionally stable, definitely not in therapy adult would do. I opened his contact, scrolled past Dad, because of course that was his name in my phone, and hit block. The silence was immediate and delicious, like a warm chippy tea after a long day of generational trauma. But wait, I wasn't finished. See, I still technically owed him something. Closure, no. An apology, God, no. But a gift? Oh, absolutely. So I did what I thought was both mature and deeply petty. I popped a $5 Greg's voucher in the post, first class, with a handwritten note that read, for services to mediocrity, all the best, your biggest regret. It was subtle, sharp, devastating, a sausage roll of vengeance, if you will, and before anyone says, that's a bit harsh, let me ask you this. What's harsher? A lifetime of cold silence, backhanded compliments, and emotional starvation? Or a laminated voucher for 2 sausage rolls and a lukewarm cup of tea? Exactly. I believe in second chances. I do. People can change. Grow. Heal. Just not him. Some bridges aren't burned. They're bulldozed, paved over, and turned into car parks, with strict height restrictions and no disabled bays. So no, I didn't rage. I didn't ruin his life. I just withdrew mine from it. And let me tell you, the air tastes better when it's not full of disappointment and passive-aggressive sighs. So cheers, Dad. Enjoy the Gregs. You finally got something to be proud of. It just isn't me. So 1 week later, I'd nearly forgotten the satisfaction of silence. You know, the kind where your phone doesn't vibrate with a new guilt. Trip every 6 hours. Bliss. I was just settling into my petty era. Spreadsheets balanced, Greg's voucher sent. Inner child slightly less traumatized when the doorbell rang. But not at my door, oh no, Dad's, and I saw it. Because, and this is where it gets delicious, I'd installed a new security system. High-definition CCTV, motion detection, and a cheeky little mobile app that let me spy on him like the emotionally wounded MI5 agent I apparently am. So I sat there, slippers on, cup of Yorkshire tea in hand, watching the footage like it was a live episode of EastEnders. Only this time Phil Mitchell wasn't smashing up a pub. It was my dad, opening his front door to find me. Now I wasn't alone. Oh no, mate. I brought backup. Behind me, the estate agent, still smug in his sockless loafers, clipboard in one hand, contempt for working-class kitchens in the other. A professional moving crew, all tattoos and Costa cups, standing there like they'd just been summoned for an exorcism. And just for that perfect touch of absurdity, 2 absolutely knackered-looking pigeons who'd made the balcony their personal Airbnb. One even had the nerve to blink at me like, what's your problem, mate? Dad opened the door like he was expecting a parcel, maybe a pity package from one of his poker mates. Instead, he got his son, the one he'd labeled a curse not 7 days prior. His face dropped faster than my will to exist at family dinners. No, I didn't say anything. Didn't need to. The silence did the heavy lifting. I like when your mum says fine, but you know a frying pan's about to fly. He blinked at me, then at the agent, then at the burly mover carrying bubble wrap like it was his calling in life, then my personal favorite. He clocked the for sale sign peeking out of the trolley. His mouth opened, then closed, like a pensioner trying to remember if he'd taken his statins. What's going on? He finally managed, already halfway to outraged pensioner. I stepped forward, calm, serene, like a man who'd finally mastered the art of not giving a toss. Eviction day, I said, cheerful as a Center Parks rep on espresso. Lovely weather for it, too. He spluttered, fully spluttered, looked behind him like he could still hide in the penthouse I'd reclaimed. You can't just, this is my flat. Actually, no. It was your flat. For a week. Now it's mine, again. Because, fun fact, Dad, contracts are a real thing. You might have heard of them if you'd read literally anything I ever sent you. One of the movers, absolute hero, let out a snort. Dad tried again. You said this was for us. For the family. To which I replied, see, you mistook generosity for permanent adoption of your emotional debt. Easy mistake. Happens to people with zero self-awareness all the time. Behind me, the estate agent coughed, probably allergic to genuine human emotion. I turned to the movers. Right, lads. Start with the fake mahogany coffee table and whatever emotional baggage is visible. If it's weeping or looks like it's haunted, chuck it. One of the pigeons waddled in like it owned the place. Honestly, good for him. And my dad, he just stood there, like a deflated piñata, full of bitterness, broken dreams, and probably a Greg's voucher he hadn't realized was meant as an insult. I didn't shout, didn't argue, didn't sob. I just watched. As the fantasy he'd built, of being owed something, of controlling someone else's life, of forever being the disappointed father without doing a single redeemable thing, crumbled around him. He thought I'd come to beg. I came to clean house, and as the pigeons flapped up into the sky, probably off to gentrify a new balcony, I smiled. 1 week, that's all it took. 7 days. And the curse became the closure. Honestly, felt better than therapy. Cheaper too. And you get to keep the receipts. So there we were. Me standing on the marble floor I technically owned twice now. Him still at the doorway looking like someone had told him the Queen was back and she'd blocked him on WhatsApp. And then it happened. He spoke. With the conviction of a man who hasn't paid a single bill in 15 years, but still thinks he's the CEO of everyone's lives. You can't do this. He said it like he was announcing the apocalypse, as if somewhere a council worker was going to burst in shouting, wait, he's right, we've made a terrible mistake. He's entitled to free luxury real estate and emotional immunity forever. Spoiler, that did not happen. I just looked at him. Not angry, not sad, just done like a microwave meal 1 minute past the beep. You're right, I said, shrugging. I shouldn't have done any of it. And for one brief, poetic moment, he looked relieved. Like maybe this was my redemption arc. Like maybe I was about to apologize, cry, declare my eternal love for parental toxicity and offer him a matching penthouse just for the trauma. Instead, I handed him a suitcase. Not just any suitcase. A bright pink discount bin unicorn stickered monstrosity I'd bought specifically for the occasion. $19.99 from TK. Max and worth every passive-aggressive penny. He stared at it like it was radioactive. I smiled. Figured if you're going to play the victim, you might as well look like one. And then the pièce de résistance, opened the door wider, stepped past him and walked directly into my penthouse. The audacity, unmatched. The drama, BBC-worthy. The satisfaction, better than sex, or at least better than any of his birthday presents. He stood there frozen, mouth moving like a half-deflated paddling pool in the wind, sputtering fragments of indignation. What about respect? What about family? What about me? Honestly, I was half expecting him to throw in a but. I'm your father, like we were suddenly doing Shakespeare in Shoreditch. Instead, I took off my coat, yes, dramatically, and turned back just once. Oh, and just so we're clear, I said, voice soft like a Tesco receipt floating in the breeze, this isn't revenge. It's housekeeping. You made the mess. I'm just evicting it. He didn't speak again. Just stood there, one hand still on the suitcase handle like it might bite him. Behind him, the movers were already packing his box of sentimental items, which, judging by the look on their faces, consisted mostly of vintage delusion and a framed photo of him scowling at my graduation. The door shut behind me. Not a slam, not a bang, just a quiet click, like the sound of a generational curse being uninstalled. And me, I went into the kitchen, made a cup of tea. No milk, no sugar, just bitter like him but with more flavor. Because here's the thing no one tells you about reclaiming your power. It's not loud. It's not messy. It's not fireworks and speeches and violins swelling in the background. Sometimes it's a pink suitcase, a passive-aggressive eviction, and a boiling kettle in a kitchen that finally feels like yours. So I sold the penthouse. Yes, that penthouse. The one formerly known as my dad's ego extension with views. Listed it. Staged it. Got rid of the pigeons. And just like that, it was gone. Honestly, I didn't even flinch when the buyer signed. Didn't clutch the marble countertops. Didn't stroke the bespoke light fittings. While whispering, we've been through so much. No. I took the money. looked at the receipt, and thought, right, let's ruin someone else's emotional legacy with this. Step 1, cleared my debt. Credit cards, uni loans, that 8 direct debit to some gym I hadn't visited since the Tories last had a likable policy. Gone. All of it. Wiped cleaner than a politician's Twitter after a scandal. Step 2, and this is where it gets fun. I started a scholarship fund for kids like me, you know, the ones raised on silent treatment sandwiches and guilt trips for pudding. I called it, wait for it, the No Regrets Grant, because why not weaponize healing and call it philanthropy? Petty. Yes. Cathartic. Absolutely. Therapist approved. No idea I ghosted her after she said I had control issues. The application criteria, simple. Must demonstrate academic potential, financial need, and evidence of surviving at least one passive-aggressive family dinner without screaming. There's even a question on the form. Describe how you overcame childhood emotional constipation in under 500 words. One applicant wrote a poem titled, "Mum Said Crying is for Losers." They got double the funding, and me, I didn't keep a penny. Didn't buy a car. Didn't splash out on a trip to Ibiza. Didn't even get myself a proper kettle. Still using the same leaky one that whistles like it's got asthma, because the point wasn't the money. It was the message. That legacy isn't something you inherit. It's something you build, preferably out of petty revenge, emotional growth, and an Excel spreadsheet with color-coded funding allocations. I don't know if my dad ever found out. I like to think he did. Probably saw the announcement, scrolled past it on Facebook between an anti-vax meme and a photo of his roast dinner. Maybe he even felt something. Shame. Regret. Mild heartburn. But me, I felt peace. Not the Instagram kind with yoga mats and tea light candles. Real peace. The kind you feel when you finally realize you don't owe anyone a bloody thing. Least of all, someone who thought being your dad meant owning your entire existence. So no, it wasn't revenge. It was recycling. Taking the rubbish he left behind and turning it into something useful. And if it just so happens to be labeled the No Regrets Grant for emotionally neglected youths, well, that's just branding, darling. And the best part, it's tax deductible. He hasn't called since. Not a text. Not a voicemail. Not even one of those cryptic Facebook statuses like, some people forget who raised them, with a crying, laughing emoji and a stock photo of a lion. Silence. And honestly, it's beautiful. Truly. Like ASMR for the emotionally exhausted. Maybe he's embarrassed. Maybe he's stunned. Maybe he finally realized that love isn't some weird loyalty point system where you collect pain like nectar points and hope one day someone trades them in for affection. Or maybe, and this is my personal favorite, he's sitting in a Travelodge, eating a cold sausage roll, wondering why the universe is being so unfair to him. But me? I sleep better now. Not in a smug, Instagram influencer drinking herbal tea in silk pajamas kind of way. No, in the gritty. I no longer wake up at 3 a.m., rethinking arguments from 2009 kind of way, which frankly is the only kind that matters. No more chasing ghosts. No more rewriting text 17 times to sound polite but not too needy. No more staring at a phone like it might suddenly deliver an apology wrapped in sincerity and a handwritten note. Spoiler, it won't. Just peace. Well, peace. Plus petty revenge and a Greg's voucher with his name on it. Still unused, by the way. I imagine it's sitting in a drawer somewhere, next to a bunch of old receipts and that Christmas card I sent him with the passive-aggressive note that read, "Hope this year brings clarity and basic human decency." Maybe one day he'll try to use it. March into Greg's all puffed up chest and unjustified entitlement, only to be told it expired. Just like the last shred of his emotional relevance. And honestly, that's the closure I never knew I needed. Because in the end, it wasn't about the penthouse, or the pink suitcase, or the scholarship named out of spite. It was about choosing silence. Glorious, echoing, unapologetic silence. The kind that doesn't demand explanations or justifications or polite nods at family funerals. And that's the sound of healing. That's the sound of me. Finally, free.